Hello, hello, hello. It is Feature Friday. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really excited because I'm getting to learn a lot about someone I don't really know yet. So we're going to learn together. Today I'm talking with Crissy Keye Rollins. Feel free to say hello as you're joining us. Let us know you're here in the group. We are really going to have a fun time today because she is a conscious entrepreneur and an intuitive healer. She's got her own Facebook group. I don't usually like to introduce the guests because I think they are so much better at telling you what makes them amazing. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome you to Feature Friday and say, Crissy, take it away and tell us what makes you a trailblazing leader.
Thank you so much, Debbie, and all of you trailblazers who are tuning into this live and in the replay. Like Debbie mentioned, I am a conscious entrepreneur, and when I think of conscious entrepreneurs, I am really speaking to those of us that feel called to go into business not solely to make a profit, although we need to make a profit to keep doing what we're doing, but we're really driven by something beyond money. We're driven to make an impact on the world, to touch lives of other people, and to really move a mission and something bigger than ourselves forward. And after a decade of being an entrepreneur, actually I'll hit my 11 years this December, I've been around the block for a while, and I found that people like me and like us that are blazing a new trail, that are bringing forth a new paradigm, either through our services that we offer or just the way that we live our life, that the old business model of doing whatever it takes, knocking on every door, putting sales first, and being very kind of motivated by making money, it just wasn't working for me. And it wasn't working for the other sensitive entrepreneurs that I know that are out there that just want to make a big difference, but don't want to have to turn into salespeople or business people to do so. So I, over the years, just evolved my practice to focus a little bit more on helping other people who are like me find their expression of themselves so they can have their business be them more fully expressed in the world and not have to change themselves to fit into what I believe is kind of an old, outdated model for doing business, and can really bring forth the power that we can bring doing things differently, hence trailblazing, right?
Yeah, that's awesome. So I think that when we look at the title intuitive healer for you, we are in the online space. And for those of us who have been around a little bit, the two words intuitive healer are very widely used, but I know that you are very specific in what you do. How I always like to go to the background story. So I would like to understand, how did you fully get into it? Like, did you just wake up one day and say, I'm going to be an intuitive healer in a conscious way, and this is why? So, and I know you gave a little bit of your story, but what makes that decision for you?
Yeah, that's such a great question, because no, I did not see myself as someone who was highly intuitive. I definitely didn't see myself as somebody that could be considered psychic or having any kind of psychic abilities. I, like most of us, were brought up with a mainstream belief that certain people have these abilities. Some people are intuitive, other people aren't. Some people can see things and sense things beyond themselves, and other people can't. And as I just kind of kept diving deep inside myself, my own personal healing journey, my own personal development and growth story and entrepreneurial story, and walking my spiritual path, I found that we all have this sitting inside of us. And given the proper conditions, just like, if the body's given the proper conditions through diet and exercise, you get a certain result. Well, given the proper support and the proper conditions, we can actually connect to and awaken our own intuition and allow our body and our mind to become their own healing mechanisms, instead of this continual search outside of ourselves for the answer, which is really kind of where my journey began. I started my practice as a massage therapist. I quickly realized people didn't just need their muscles pushed physically in order to make change, but that was kind of a result of how they treated themselves, how they ate, how they moved their body, how much hydration they had. And I realized people just needed more than just that manual manipulation of their muscle tissues. And so I started incorporating whole food nutrition and nutritional cleansing into my practice. And that's when I first started to run into the need for mindset work and life coaching, because I was attracting these clients that knew that they needed to make a change, like life depends on them changing how they live their life, but they would not commit to a diet and exercise regimen to do so without working through some of their internal stuff. And I found that I had this natural gift. It was not anything that I pursued independently on my own. It just started to come forth from within me, this natural gift to be able to take what I have incorporated in my own personal journey and teach it in a way that makes it very practical, very tangible, and like something you can really wrap your mind around, instead of these elusive concepts that we hear a lot, like, talking about the law of attraction, or talking about, faith and surrender and the power of prayer, all these things that, we're told to lean on. But what does that mean? How do you incorporate faith into your life? What does that physically look like on a day-to-day basis? And as I was helping people to shift things internally, I started to make a correlation between what they were getting into balance emotionally and energetically. It was affecting how they physically presented themselves on my table whenever I went to do massage. And then I started to notice that if you follow the major energy centers of the body, the physical symptoms that were showing up in people's bodies were correlated with these energy centers. And when I started to look into what the energy centers represent and started to work on that energetic and emotional level, then I found that the physical condition that was being presented in front of me could be a result of this imbalance on the emotional and energetic level. And that allowed me to take my practice online or over the phone, because now I'm able to connect with people, be it if they have physical discomforts or emotional struggles. Like, I attract a lot of people that have anxiety issues. Anxiety, I think, is a huge hindrance for a lot of us in today's society. And learning how to shift your relationship with yourself so that you can shift the power back into you and allow a really authentic healing process to take place, then that will remedy whatever is happening on the physical level in the body. So now let's take that over into the business world. And I realized, in order for other entrepreneurs like myself that are driven for this mission beyond ourselves, but aren't following that traditional path, that in order for us to really heal our businesses, we had to do some internal healing within ourselves. So we can sign up for all the programs, we can take all the trainings, we can follow all these action steps that we see other successful people doing, but then we're going to run into our own roadblocks. Either we're going to take that information and just be scared to apply it, or run into some kind of internal block that's stopping us from fully executing what we know is possible for ourselves, or we're actually going through the steps and not getting the result on the other side. We're showing up consistently, we're posting on Facebook, we're engaging with people, but we're not getting that engagement in return. So as I started to kind of take the same process of healing the body over to our businesses and looking at the entrepreneurial path itself, I just found that there was this really sweet correlation and balance and kind of a bridge from how we treat ourselves physically and emotionally to how we show up physically and emotionally in our businesses, in our relationships, in our whatever endeavors we're taking on. And I found that the real change happens on the inside first, and then we start to have it change on the outside.
Yeah, so, and that mirrors everything that I teach too, which is that how you show up in one place in your life is how you show up in every place. And I think it's so interesting that that it parlays so much into business. And I think the difficult thing that we have sometimes being online is articulating that to people who are feeling this pain over here. And they say, well, I'll deal with that once my business takes off, or once I'm more successful, or once I have the money to do it. And so many people don't see that direct connection between get yourself aligned and healed and, you know, where you need to be on the inside, and everything on the outside does it come into total like abundance and joy. Everything fulfills itself. It's not such hard work anymore. And when you talked about the law of attraction, that's exactly it. And I'm a huge proponent of the law of attraction. And once you do understand that law of attraction is not, I'm just going to journal about what I want. It's about really getting into alignment with it. I think what you're talking about is so important, because people are missing that alignment piece that you're talking about. So what is your secret sauce in getting people through this process?
Yeah, so great. You got chills coming up on me. So I love that there's so much resonance. And I think that the part of the tripping point with the law of attraction is that understanding the law of attraction is the physical observation of what's happening. It's the physical observation of what's happening. And that's always the after effect. It's not actually what's causing it. Whatever's happening in life makes it appear to be that way.
Yeah.
So what was your question again? I'm sorry, my mind went totally blank after I said that part.
Well, I'll pause and say hello to Mark, who said he was 2 p.m. show today, and yes, I'm changing around some times too, so that we can figure out what works best for people, and also we have schedules to work around and stuff too. But he was also talking about a quick fix.
Yes.
That a lot of people are looking for. But my question to you, and of course, I think that's part of what we deal with, is that everybody wants a quick fix because let's be honest, when your business isn't making money or whatever your current pain is, I mean, that's an immediate need. That is definitely an immediate need for a lot of people. So the quick fix is very relevant. But I wanted to know more about how you bring your secret sauce into getting people into alignment, so that, when you say an intuitive healer, what exactly is your secret sauce?
Yes. It all came flooding back to me. So thank you for thank you.
Been there, done that.
That's why I started speaking on the law of attraction. When you're only looking at things on the physical observation level, you're only getting part of the story. And when we can peel back those layers there, as I got just super curious as an entrepreneur, and especially when I found a business model that's fresh, it's a new paradigm for business. It's unlike the traditional model of, hey, this is me, this is what I got, do you want some? That none of us like to do or be engaged with.
No.
Instead, it's just a much more aligned way of doing business. It feels much more authentic. You can just be your natural self and not become a business person to make it work. So I was like, cool, I'm totally taking this concept and I'm going to start teaching my clients. So I started teaching my clients thinking they're going to have the amazing breakthroughs that I have had because this system just set me free. But they didn't. And I quickly realized it's because I shifted my focus to look more at what are the physical action steps and kind of eased up on the mindset and the internal emotional balancing healing stuff. So as I'm giving my client these action steps, all their stuff starts to surface. So they would engage with me saying, yes, this is what I want to do. I want that quick fix. I want to get to that end result. I want to, make my business work. But as they were implementing the physical steps, that's when all their stuff started to surface. So then we spent our time working through that. And then they thought they weren't getting what they thought they were getting because they thought in the end they were going to have this business. They didn't know they had to work through those layers. So that's when I was like, you know what? I got to halt this. Business coaches are awesome. They're great. There's a place for them. I just am meant to do so much more than that. And that's where I leaned my way back over to my healing roots and my where I started all of this from, doing that healing work. And I took everything that I had learned. What was it? What was it that allowed me to take those physical steps and make a difference? And I realized that I had built a very solid foundation that was on the unseen level. And this foundation was rooted in 3 things. And my entire practice is just evolves and revolves around these 3 things. And those 3 things are a solid, unshakable foundation of self-love, self-trust, and self-worth. And for me, on being a decade into this personal development world, somewhere along the line, I checked that self-love off the list. Like, oh yeah, that's a good thing to have. I totally should love myself. And I started to treat myself a little bit more kindly, and I started to speak to myself a little bit more kindly. But when I took
I want to stop you right there. Sure. Did you notice physical changes when you did that? Because I really want to connect the two, because I think some people are missing that.
Totally. So when I first was introduced to self-love, I kind of look at it like I checked it off my list and I just kept on trucking. Okay, so got that. What's next? What's next? What's next? But then it came back around again. And this time it wasn't love yourself, check it off the to-do list. It was make self-love a daily, active, living part of your daily life. And when I started to do something as simple as, so here's a quick fix for you. That's not really a quick fix, but it is a quick fix. When I started to just take one moment in my day to tell myself, I love you, and not just say it as I'm trucking through the house, but to really feel it and really learn how to receive self-love, The same way that I poured over my daughter, the way I poured over my husband, the way I poured over all of my family, don't think twice about it. Why am I not taking that time, even just once, to tell myself, I love you. You're doing a
Yeah.
great job. And it's because I was so focused on what was not happening on the physical level that all that I could see was my shortcomings. And especially, this is where my line of work really just, this is the sweet spot of my work, especially when I was showing up in my business every day, doing the action steps that were I was told were get results, and either doing them consistently, not getting the results, or just for whatever reason couldn't get myself to show up consistently or to do the work consistently. And I tried to create systems. I tried to follow different models. I made spreadsheets. I attended webinars. I got accountability groups. I did everything that I could to get myself to take that action. And it was not until I started to love myself on a daily basis that all of a sudden I felt inspired to do the work. I showed up not because I was doing it in order to get, I started to show up because that's what makes my heart sing. And when I align my actions as a demonstration of my self-love and showing up as an example of my self-worth, and really anchoring into my self-trust that I've got this journey no matter what it looks like on the outside, everything started to change. And as I started to learn how to lead myself through my life, I found that that is the real key to leadership. Before I can ever lead the masses, I had to learn how to lead myself. And I believe that my calling in this world is to work with other trailblazers, with other people that are sitting there like, I just don't have a model to follow because nobody's doing quite what I'm doing. That's a sign. It's a clue, because you didn't come here to replicate what's been done.
Mhm.
Our particular generation, I believe this wave of entrepreneurs, we came here to bring something new. And it's so unique. It is unique to you. But if you don't cultivate a better relationship with yourself, if you don't learn how to build your self-trust, and if you are unaware of your massive, massive self-worth, you will always shortchange yourself. You will never show up consistently, and you will always make sure that you stay in a state of struggle and not having enough, because there's going to be a fundamental disconnect within yourself that's leading you to believe that you're not enough in some way because you can't replicate what you see other people doing.
I want to
And
take a step back,
yeah,
Crissy, because I know that your message, I hear it often, and not necessarily exactly in your way, but when, talking about I made this and then everything changed. I would love to get you to articulate that a little bit more, because we identify with exact examples. So tell us what changed for you. Give us one or two examples briefly of what changed for you.
absolutely. And I say a lot, Debbie, I tell people often, everything changed and nothing changed. Everything changed, but nothing changed. I still struggle to communicate with my husband. I still never know what income's going to come in what amount, on what day, and what form. I still have all the same bills that I have to pay out, maybe a few less, but everything was the same. It was the same. What was different was how I experienced myself as I went through those same situations. I stopped disliking myself because my business wasn't working the way that I thought. And I started to trust that the way that I thought it should work was just a preview. My intuition showing me what's down the road. And I was able to develop that self-trust to the point that I could just relax no matter what number was in my bank account, no matter how my husband was acting, no matter what my daughter was going through. I became a mom in the process of running my business. She's 4 years old now, so that changed a lot of things. It really allowed me to change my business model, and that's what I love to do now, is working with people who want to have a non-traditional schedule but still create consistent income with it. Yeah, I love that. You should be able to create your own life. You should be able to do whatever your heart desires. And I just post to my clients, and I post to myself on a daily basis. What if that desire is a preview of what's to come? What if I don't actually have to do anything in order to get? What if my success is inevitable? What if all of this is unfolding to bring me to where I desire to be? Now, I don't know, because I don't know. I don't know. But I know that I've never approached my business, never approached my life, never approached my relationships as if that's a truth. So how can I know if it's a possibility if I'm not even giving myself the space and the time and the experience to explore it? So what I started to do is one of the concepts that I teach my clients all the time. I started to become my best business partner. I started to become the business partner that I wanted to show up and work with every day. And a good business partner isn't one that puts you down and points out all your shortcomings and is bitching at you all the time. A good business partner says, you know what? You're amazing and you really do a remarkable job. And I know that you're scared, but you can make such a difference if you could just put this post out, if you can just talk about this vulnerable thing. And I didn't just partner with myself in my business. I made it my mission to become the safest person for me to be around. Which
Oh, that's an awesome. Oh, let's pause there
everything.
for a second. Let's pause it. That is huge. That is huge. I love what you just said about being the safest person to be around, because is that not the opposite of what so many online entrepreneurs who are stuck in comparison mode at everything everyone else is doing and all the successes that the marketers are throwing out there? And just constantly beating themselves up. I need to show up more. I need to do more. I need to work harder. I need to figure this out. What's wrong with me? I'm stupid. Whatever. All these things. It's the most unsafe place to be most days is with ourselves. And since it's just us most of the time behind the keyboard, it's dangerous. It is so dangerous. So I'm so glad you said that. I know I've interrupted you a couple of times and I don't normally do that. So I apologize. But what you're saying, it's so important, I think, to share more with our audience about, because it's powerful. This healing is powerful. So talk about that some more. Talk about that safe place versus, like, you obviously, you had that conversation with yourself about needing to be the safest place because clearly you weren't. Can you talk about that transition for you?
Absolutely. So I'm a very flexible, easygoing gal. I'm very good with the flow. I'm pretty resilient, and I'm very good, as I think a lot of us women are and a lot of us moms are, of taking on more than my fair share of the load.
Mm-hmm.
I do more around the house. I take care of things more with my daughter. You know, it's easy for me just to do it at all costs. And when I realized that at all costs was costing me part of the life experience that I desire, and it was also costing those around me up-leveling their journey, because as long as I'm taking it on and taking it on and taking it on, whoever I'm taking it on for isn't learning how to be self-sufficient on their own. And when I realized that I was doing this, or at least just started to explore from a place of what if, because, you know, I can't prove any of this stuff. We don't really know what goes on in the subconscious mind. We don't really know, but we can take a guess at it. And I started to say, what if all this doing was just some massive campaign within myself to try to prove my worth and my value? And what if all the success that I desire was just to show my husband that I knew what I was doing? And what if all these things that I'm asking to come into my life, I'm doing them slightly misaligned, not aligned with the truth of who I am, not aligned with the truth about what's possible, but to just prove that I have some kind of worth or value, or that I can make a difference.
Yeah.
And as I started to reel that in and realize that every time that I allow myself to get run over and don't speak up for myself, or I allow my confidence to shake because of somebody else's doubt and naysaying, I realized that I can't wait for all of life to support me, like every person around me championing me on in order to succeed. That's just unrealistic. And at the same time, as I learned to become my own self-advocate, as I learned to give myself everything that I was desiring to get from outside, and when I just became the person in the relationship that I desired to have a relationship with, no matter who I was relating with, it didn't matter how other people showed up, because I showed up differently. And all of life boils down to one thing: your experience. It is not what you're surrounded by. It is not what's happening around you. Your life experience at any given moment is determined by one thing and one thing only. And that is, what is your experience of you in that moment?
What else? So for a lot of people who have kids, this is an important point too. You don't realize that by doing everything for them and taking control and putting yourself out there and overstressing. See, I did this thing where at one point I did a timeline exercise and I looked ahead. My son is 12 and I looked ahead when my son is 20, 22, 24 years old. Was I putting him on a path for success, or was I putting him in a place to have to depend on a controlling woman? And of course, the results are terrifying when you take it and look at it like that. And so when you were talking about doing things and actually taking that power away from other people and their ability to learn and grow, it is so painfully obvious as a parent when we do step back and look at it from that perspective. So I wanted to draw that point home too, because a lot of people think, well, I'm okay. I'm just going to take care of my family over here and do my business here and everything is fine. But when you draw out that timeline and you look at your activities and behaviors today are so directly impacting everyone around you. It's not just you and not just isolated to your business. It is how you're raising your children. It's how you're treating people and friends and teaching them to treat you, and it's long term. And so I just wanted to make that point too and really say how important that is. And as you're talking about it and you're talking about how to heal this process and how to move people forward, I think it's so important to understand it's not just a narrow-minded, narrow-focused thing. This is world-changing, life-changing stuff. So
yes, and you hit on something, it really sparked something in me. The top things that I hear from other entrepreneurs as what's holding them back, what's stopping you in your business, it typically winds down to three areas. Either they feel like they don't have enough support. I know what that's like. My husband is a big fan of me. And he's such a fan of me, he expects everything I touch to just work instantly. And whenever it doesn't, he begins to doubt what I'm doing, which I used to confuse as doubting me. But he's got to see it to believe it, is the type of guy that he is. So when I talk about what's possible, he's not going to really get on board until I show him the results. And that kept me in this limbo, push-pull state of needing to get these results so that I can make him believe, and needing his positive words, or at least feeling damaged by his non-positive words, holding me back. And it made me doubt myself. And then when I realized, like, what am I really doubting? Like, do I lack confidence in what I'm doing? No, actually, I'm pretty confident in what I'm doing. I'm just not confident in my ability to prove it to him. And when I stopped trying to prove it to him and I just reveled in what I knew to be true within myself, and I stopped needing him to say, oh, I see what you're saying, and I instead learned how to become my own advocate, my own support system, I can now receive support from him, and I'm receiving support from him that I have been dreaming about for years and never got, because I was actively seeking to get it from him. Yeah. So support's one of the things. The other thing that I hear people say, the other two things that go hand in hand, time and money. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money. Yeah. If you're somebody who doesn't have enough time and doesn't have enough money, it's because you're giving your power away in those two areas. And you got to shift that power back over to you. Nobody's going to come in your day and be like, you know what, Crissy, I'm going to give you a timeout, and for the next 2 hours, you can do whatever you want. That's never going to happen, ever. And if we don't make time in the day for who is most important, because we're so busy trying to take care of everybody else, we will always be short on time, because we have not started to take a stand for our time, reclaim our time, and demand our time for ourselves. And that's why I love starting it with just one I love you a day. You begin to take your time back. You begin to realize you give your time to everybody and everything all day long. The only one who's going to make sure that you have time for you is you. And then so we got the
I love you tip. That's a good tip. I was going to ask you, do you have a quick tip or two? First of all, Gladys in here giving you a hands up. Hey, Gladys. Hey. Hello. Thanks for being here. So the tip of just taking your time and your power back to really own those spaces and money. So doing the I love you is a great step. Do you have another quick tip or two that you can share with the listeners as we start to wrap up here on how they can start taking that power back for those who don't have necessarily mastered that yet?
Absolutely. Absolutely. First of all, just open yourself up to the what ifs. What if life is conspiring for your success? What if you don't have to do in order to get? What if all of that is just an observation and like a way to pass time until we get to what we want? And what if all of your experiences do boil down to just your experience of you? And how can you up level that within yourself? But the quickest thing to share that I think is super powerful, and it's something that I talk a lot about in my Facebook groups, this will probably be a perfect segue into where you can stay connected and what else I have going on, is I got really curious about action, why I take it and why I don't take it, why others want to take it and don't take it. Like, why do we have these desires? Like, I really want to do this, but I'm not doing it. What's up with that? It's very fascinating to me. And I was inspired to reverse engineer action. And what I found at the very, like, if you just peel back that outer layer of that physical observation of action, what's lying right underneath the surface of action is confidence. Mm-hmm. And if you stop to think about it right now, you will either do or not do, directly dependent on your level of confidence, period. No matter how bad you want it, you're never going to do it unless you're very confident that you can survive on the other side or look good in the process or whatever that thing is, right?
Yeah.
And at the same time, we will do the most horrid actions necessary if we're confident that we're going to survive it. So it's not about liking doing it and not liking doing it. That's what we think. Like, oh, I just don't like to bother people. No, you're not confident that you're going to get what you really want on the other side of this. That's what's stopping you. So now that you know that, anytime that you find yourself taking action or not taking action or trying to get yourself, like, because I'm just somebody, I will go all day long if I'm lined up with what inspires me, but you cannot get me to do anything. Like, you know, that whole lacking motivation or thinking that you're lazy or a procrastinator or whatever those stories are that we make up. If you got those stories going on, you're none of those things. You're not lazy. You're not procrastinating. You need to love yourself. You need to trust yourself, and you need to up your confidence. So and
you need to get aligned with who you really are too.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I kept reverse engineering. I was like, okay, well, if confidence is the outer layer, how do we get to confidence? And I traced it all the way back to realize that at the very core of it, at the very core of confidence, at the very core of action is self-love. And when you can cultivate an amazing relationship with yourself, I mean, understand that if all of this falls away, if it all just goes away, what are you left with? You. Yep. And that's it. It's all that you really have. So you need to take care of this.
Yeah.
And as you cultivate a better relationship with yourself, your inner self begins to speak more clearly to you. Your outer self can better understand what your inner self's saying. And then your outer self can just become, it can really live into the role that it was meant, which is to live your heart's desire out loud, to be the advocate. It's the only thing that's going to move forward what you got in here. That's it. And if you're at odds, it's always going to be a struggle. And I can unpack that and talk about that for a few hours in itself if you ever want to.
I know. I'm sitting here going, I wish we had a 2-hour show, because this would be like...
I'm going to keep it truncated for you.
I know. So, and something this big is tough. It's tough to keep into that capsule. And so
that's what I have found, especially as I've dove really deep into bringing this to the table. I found this is what my specialty is. This is really what my gift is. It's to offer simple power shifts that allow for quantum leaps. Because the majority of people that I work with, we're not new to this. That's why we're so frustrated, because we've been so good for so long in making ourselves better and better and better and better, and we're still not getting what we know is possible for us on the other side. And we're so tired. We're just tired of waiting. We're tired of doing. We're tired of all the giving and just not getting it back in return. And don't get me wrong, we love to give. We would keep doing this if we could just receive enough to keep us going.
Right.
And that's what I found, that for conscious entrepreneurs, for us trailblazers, for us that are big feelers, that are struggling to make this business work, it really is, we have to learn how to receive. That is what we need to do. We don't have money problems. You don't have money problems. You have problems receiving. And when you can take money out of the equation and just practice and master the art of receiving, that is where you start to get more of what you desire to come into your life. That's where you balance what you're giving out and what's coming back in. And that's where the magic starts to happen. And I believe receiving starts by receiving from ourselves. Can you receive an I love you to your heart every single day? Can you do that consistently? You do that consistently, and something will wake up inside of you. Because this is what happened to me. It was so subtle. It was so subtle. I didn't even know it was happening until all of a sudden this total badass showed up. And she's been in there all along. Like, I knew she was there, but she started to express herself outwardly, but not in a way that took other people out of the equation. in a way that was really aligned with the sensitive heart that's in here too, and the compassionate soul, and the one who can be flexible and bend and, go with the flow. It all just came together, and the soul started to settle into the physical self. And that's where I started to find that sweet spot. And because my gift is teaching these unseen, elusive concepts, I am breaking these down into simple steps so that you can begin to create these really powerful shifts inside of you. And it doesn't take much. I mean, one perspective shift can just completely change your entire life experience. And that's why I made a vow. I'm no longer teaching people how to fix or how to change themselves, but I will show you how to dive deep inside yourself, how to learn yourself on an intimate level, how to understand your intuition, how to become your own guide, your own healer, your own advocate, your own support system, and teach you how to receive so that you can start to have the life experience that you truly desire, the success that you want, the relationship that you want, whatever you want. I just really love working with other people who struggle trying to figure out, how do I bring what I have inside me out into the world in a way that's sustainable? Because I know for myself, it was a struggle.
A lot of people do. A lot of people do. And I want to recognize that Frankie is over here, and we're going to wrap it up. I'm going to give you an opportunity to tell us where people can find you, and then we're going to wrap it up because we're running a little bit long, but I think this is really important stuff to get out there. So Frankie Ma is actually, she's my one of my former business besties in a different group, and she joined us today just now, actually. And she is totally just floored by your message and loving everything you say, and said that she has issues receiving. And Gladys over here too, talking about confidence is definitely at the core of getting things done, and that she also believes that receiving is hard. So for people who definitely resonate with your message, Crissy, where do they find you? What do you have going on right now?
Absolutely. But the best place to start is just check out my Facebook group. It's for conscious entrepreneurs, but there are some people in there that haven't started a business yet. They just know that would be nice one day if they could just, make it through the day with not having an anxiety attack. Yeah. But it's called the Consciouspreneur Club. It's an amazing group. I think we're right around 350 members. We're just hitting our 1-year anniversary, and there's just so much awesome support to be found there. This conversation is happening all the time. We do weekly oracle draws so that you can practice following your intuition and have some great self-reflective time. I allow promotions as long as they're integrity filled and value packed. I allow promotions all the time. And one thing that I really love about this group is that the first week of every month, so today's the last day of it, I do a free 5-day Transform Fear into Confidence challenge, where I take you through that reverse engineering process, start you out at self-love, end you up at confidence, and show you how you can interweave these concepts into your business model to make it a more aligned business model and create a structure for your flow to go that's unique and right for you. So if you hop over there today, you can see the videos that have been posted throughout the week. You can see the conversation that's been happening. And we're going to do a wrap-up call tomorrow, Saturday at 12:30 Eastern time that you can be a part of, even if you didn't participate in the challenge. If you just want to find out more and plug into it, I'll do a recap of the whole challenge. We'll have a live Q&A. I'll do a lovely guided meditation to close us out. It's going to be really awesome. So hop over to that group, and then from there you can get plugged into my stuff. If you really want to take a deep dive, I have an amazing support group that's a very, very low investment to get yourself plugged into this way of thinking, master workshop series, group healing sessions. I mean, you name it. You'll start there at the Consciouspreneur Club, and you'll find the rest from there.
It's so funny that, first of all, will you drop the link? Because I did copy the link ahead of time, but Facebook won't let me drop it for some reason. Sure. So if you won't mind just going in there, we'll drop the link in as soon as this is over. Or you could go on your phone and do it now if you want. I just can't do it because I don't want to be distracted. Yeah. It's best if Debbie doesn't get distracted. But I think it's funny because you and I do similar things differently. I do focus a lot on visibility, and fear is, you talk about anxiety, and I look at anxiety and fear very similarly, and when they show up the same ways. And so I run a fear program myself, and I found that in people not wanting to get visible, in people not really feeling confident in getting visible, there's a lot of stuff that's based in fear and past stories and stuff like that needs to be addressed. And you've got to go in there and clean out the clutter.
There's a lot of shame that we need to free ourselves with. And especially if you're somebody who's been doing this for a while and you haven't gotten the results, you feel kind of fraudulent, showing up, acting like you're successful, but yet that's what all the training tells you to do because of the law of attraction, and you don't want to attract more crappiness in your life. And we're putting all this responsibility on our shoulders that is not ours. And as you can learn where your responsibility lies and where it doesn't, and you can begin to surrender to life, you can surrender to your soul self, and then really lead from your heart, knowing that you are the amazing person that you believe yourself to be, and trusting that that's going to guide you the rest of the way. Again, it's a power shift. And I say power shift a lot because it takes all the power from out here, what people are doing, what finances look like, what relationships are like, what Facebook is like. It takes the power out of here and it puts it back here where it rightfully belongs. And as soon as you feel that for yourself, for me, there was just no going back. It's like crossing a line or waking up from a dream and realizing, oh, I don't have to go back to sleep. I can just stay in this space regardless of what other people do. And especially for us sensitive ones, we don't understand part of what is making this such a tough struggle is that we are liberating the collective human consciousness, and we are empathing all of that through ourselves. And as it comes up, it's not coming into your world to start it all over again. It's leaving your world because you're on the path and you're doing it. And just shifting that can be so liberating and so inspiring, and just allow you to put that one more foot in front of the other to unlock what's next for you. And
that's awesome.
It's a sweet journey.
Yeah, the perception shift is everything. I have been a huge proponent of for years of what we perceive, is our reality. So, whatever you believe is true is. And so I love that you said that. And I really want to encourage people to go over and connect with you at the Conscious Entrepreneurs Group. And you said you'll drop that link in. So Are there any parting words, anything that anyone should hear before we head off?
One of my mentors says this all the time, and it's just something that I feel also called to remind everybody. You are going to go through whatever you're going to go through, whatever success, whatever failures. I mean, whatever it is, whether you have control over it or you don't have control over it, no matter what your belief is, you're going to go through whatever you're going to go through.
That's
and
right.
No matter what you go through, you always deserve more love, not less. And for me, again, as soon as I can acknowledge that there's more than just outer Crissy suffering through everything, but inner Crissy who's excited and delighted to be here and chose this woman to live through in this life, and I just link arms with her, in that instant, not only do I feel a shift inside myself, but 100% of the time whenever I do that, whatever is causing resistance or trouble out here, it shifts and it goes away. And it's the coolest thing ever, but it's one of those things that nobody can do for you. So just start with loving yourself. And if that feels weird, hop over to the Consciouspreneur Club. I'll walk you through the process, because sometimes we need to throw in a few thank yous and I'm sorry's and I forgive yous and before we can really let the love in.
I'm Ho'oponopono all day, every day. What she just said, everyone, in case you're not familiar, is the Hawaiian, I paraphrase it as the Hawaiian prayer for forgiveness, basically, which is taking responsibility for everything that happens to you so that you can then let it go and heal, and not just yourself, but others as well. And it's, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. And those 4 things, and going through and have a visual of what your intention is in that moment. And I just had to, I don't know if you know this, Crissy, but over a several month period this year, I did the Ho'oponopono and was able to move beyond some pretty serious shit that I didn't think I would ever move beyond or just really be able to let go of. And so it's such a powerful thing. So when you say that, I'm like, oh, well, absolutely. It definitely.
And when you go into it with the intention, I'm going to do this to get this reward on the other side, it is so different than I'm going to do this because I have suffered enough. And the audacity of every person who has overlooked me or not treated me the way that I deserve or not recognized my greatness, I deserve to be one of the people who is there for myself. I cannot be one of those who neglects and hurts this chick anymore. And as I took that stand, I'm telling you, there's just some fierceness that rose up inside me that was pissed off that this chick's ever been mistreated. And now she fights and she stands in love and in a powerfully aligned way. This isn't just like, knock everybody else out of the way, bringing forth all this masculine energy. It is just really bringing a more authentic expression of who I am and how I feel about myself. It allows me to love people more deeply, and it allows me to receive love in ways that I never could before. And it's just start there. Just kind of give a middle finger to everybody and everything else in the world and love yourself regardless. And it's a game changer.
That's excellent. That is excellent. Thank you so much, Crissy. Thanks for sharing this with the community. And for those of you who want to connect with her, please feel free to join her Conscious Entrepreneurs group. We're going to go ahead and head off. If you are interested in upping your visibility efforts, you know where to reach me. Let's have a conversation. If you haven't had your opportunity on Feature Friday, we need to make that happen, because you need to share your message with the world, just like Crissy. Imagine if Crissy didn't come on here today and share her message and move the people who were watching it either live or who will get her message and her amazing healing energy and information from the replay. So if you can imagine that, imagine your message is just as powerful. So definitely connect with me if that's something that you feel you need to start doing a little bit more. And in the meantime, connect with Crissy and start doing some of those conscious entrepreneur things over in her group. So thank you again so much, Crissy. Thanks everyone for hanging out with us today. We'll see you again next Friday on Feature Friday.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Debbie.